Okay. All right, we're starting again, Perek Yutes, Bebeir Chelke Chasidus, right? This is where Chasidus is really going to be drilled down. So, two questions I want to keep in mind as we go along. Right, again, we understand that Chasidus, especially the way we phrased it last time, is Chasidus is looking at not the words of Hashem, but the Ratzon of Hashem, right? So meaning we're using the words of Hashem, which is the Torah, to really understand what is the Ratzon of Hashem, and therefore going out of your way to fulfill the Ratzon of Hashem in the best possible manner. That's Chasidus, right? Mm-hmm. Now the question, that an ongoing question we have, is Chasidus appropriate before you reach this level, right? Before you reach Prishus and Tahara, and you complete Nikiyus, is Chasidus appropriate? That's the one question. It's an ongoing question that we have, and we've already, I think, seen rayas this way and that way. And the second question really is, that's what I remember last time. I was like paused for a second and I couldn't remember what I wanted to say. So the other thing is, meaning when a person reaches a level of Chasidus, right? So do those elements that he does lefnim meshuras hadin, do they now become din for him, right? Meaning, is it still, I'm getting extra credit, or no? For you, this is now credit. This is now credit. This is for you now credit. And again, we have to see, because there has to be some sort of difference between, again, the mitzvahs that are right, that are mefurish, that are explicit, and the things that you go out of your way to do, right? There is going to be difference, even if we decide that it's for you, it's the din, but there's still going to be a difference of, of priorities and things like that. There has to be a difference, right? There has to be a difference. Okay, so we're going to have to formulate all of that, okay, as we go along. But anyways, moving on. There are three headings, right? Three divisions of Chasidus. Okay? Three divisions. One, ha'echad b'ma'aseh. The first section of Chasidus is what is negea, the actual action. Right? In other words, do more. Right? So, right, if Chasidus means more, so one type of Chasidus is just quantity, do more, right? Do additional stuff. Okay? Hasheni, what's the second type of Chasidus? The second type of Chasidus, be'oifen ha'asiyah, is how you actually do more, right? Not actually do more. How do you actually do, right? What is, okay, we'll see what that means. But oifen ha'asiyah is the way a Chassid does mitzvahs is different from the way a tzaddik does mitzvahs, right? And Ashlishi be'kavana. And the Shlishi is the intent. The Shlishi is the intent. Again, we'll have to see what that means. If that means the same thing, right? As we meant before, right? Kavana by mitzvahs means you have to be awareness that you have a chiyuv to do this mitzvah, right? That's kavana. If that's what it means over here, we'll have to see. Okay, fine. So those are the three types. Okay, let's move on. Hachelek harishon b'masa. So the first chelek, which is b'masa, which is the actual action, afhu is chalek l'shnei chalokim. It is further subdivided into two sections. One section is what's negea action between God and man. And the second section is what's benon l'chaver, is between man and man. Right? So in other words, if we're going to extend mitzvahs, so obviously they're going to extend the way they extend in the mitzvahs themselves, right? The extensions will be an extension of the mitzvahs. There's the mitzvahs divided into benon l'chaver and benon l'mokum. So too, the extensions will be divided into benon l'chaver and benon l'mokum. Fine. Now it continues. Okay. So achelek harishon shebarishon. So the first section within the first section, hu b'masa shebenon l'mokum. It's within action between man and God. V'inyanai, and the idea is, again, I'm not sure why he had to preface this again. I don't know why he needed the first section, which is the first section. Sounds repetitive, right? So, okay, so. I'm not sure, why specifically you have to reinforce that structure, right? Okay, so b'masr b'nolam l'mokom v'inyon kiyum kol hamitzvos, and the idea of this section is fulfillment. Kiyum kol hamitzvos b'chol hadikdukim, in all of their details. Dikdukim is not details. What's in the word? Not details, but rather intricacies. In all their intricacies, shebahem ad mokoim sheyad ha'odam magas, as far as a person's hand can reach, right? Meaning till at utmost ability, right? Fulfilling all the mitzvahs with all of their intricacies to the utmost ability. Hold on, rewind for a second. Okay, so that goes back to, going back to maybe I just overthought it at that time. Goes back to that other line that we spoke about last time, right? Nimtza klala Chasidus. The general rule of Chasidus is harchavas kiyum kol mitzvahs, the expansion of fulfillment of all the mitzvahs, b'chol hatzdadim, and all of their sides, v'hatanoim, and conditions, shiroi, that is appropriate, v'she'efshar, and that is possible. Right? So we wanted to know what that means. Right? So over here, it's the same. So this is what he's saying over here. Kiyum kol mitzvahs, right? Fulfillment of all the mitzvahs. Bechol hadikdukim, in all of the details, a lot of the intricacies shabahem. So that seems to be saying kiyum kol mitzvahs bechol hatzdadim. Right? Bechol hatzdadim. Sorry, and then it says ad mokom sheyad ha'odam magas, until as much as a person's hands could reach. In other words, to the utmost of a person's ability, and that's what it means shiroi v'she'efshar. Right, shiroi v'she'efshar. Whatever's possible, just means whatever, the most you could do.
And do it to the maximum
the most you
capabilities.
Could do. Right. Most you could do. Okay. Fine. Okay, moving on. And this is what our sages refer to when they say shiraim, right? Shiori mitzvah, the left shiraim of the mitzvah. So shiori ha-mitzvah, is he saying that's the dikdukim beyond the mitzvah. V'omru shiorei mitzvah me'akvim es haparonius, right? The fulfillment of the shiorei mitzvah, they prevent paronius.
Shiorei mitzvah, the vestiges of the mitzvah.
All right, the leftovers, the vestiges, right? Okay, all right. So that's shiorei mitzvah, and they are me'akvin es haparonius. Okay, fine. Ki'afal pi sheguf ha-mitzvah nishlam zulosam, that even though the essence, the body, right, the main guf, the main essence of the mitzvah nishlam is complete zulosam, even without them, ukvar yotza b'zei dei chavosai, and he fulfills his obligation, right, without these shiorei mitzvah. That's good enough for the Hamoin Yisrael, for the general populace of Klal Yisrael. Chasidim, but the saintly ones, ein lahem ela leharbois b'hashlamosam, right? They have to increase in completion, in perfection. V'loy l'mayid b'hem klal, not in completion, fulfillment, complete fulfillment. V'loy l'mayid b'hem klal, and not to minimize at all. Right? So far, so good?
Not to minimize.
Meaning on any kind of details. Whatever details you could figure out that Hashem wants you to do, right? You do it.
And the regular guy doesn't do that.
And regular guy doesn't do that. Doesn't have to do that. Meaning a tzaddik fulfills what is required.
Right.
A chassid,
Goes-
an individual, goes beyond what is required and he goes to whatever is possible. Right?
Okay.
So again, we live in very Hasidic times. Right? Meaning, I don't mean Hasidic, I mean Hasidic, right? I mean, many actions of Chasidus have become mainstream, right? And not just in the front, our 21st century. I'm talking about, just in general, as halacha developed, a lot of things that maybe originally was considered Chasidus became mainstream. Okay, yeah. So
that's what I'm trying to, I guess, get it. Right. Because we do a lot of things that are...
Right, the Gemara that they bring over here from Shiur Mitzvah is saying that the waving, for example, the waving of the species is Shiur Mitzvah of the Arba Minim. Right, even though, because you're Yoitz in the mitzvah is Netilas Lulav, right? But to beautify the mitzvah with shaking it and waving it and etc. Right, you don't just take it; you are, so to speak, almost dancing with it. Right, you're doing something special with it. Yeah, I don't know. Fine. Okay, let's move on. Okay, all right. But the bottom line is, this is the first part within the first part, and that is, fulfilling all the details of the mitzvah as much as possible. Okay, so the question is going to be, and that's right. The question is going to be, how do you know? How do you know what are these intricacies of a mitzvah? Right, meaning, right, he doesn't clarify. He just says that there are elements in the dikdukim of a mitzvah, but he doesn't really clarify what these things are. Right?
It's a very... I'm sure there's a spectrum.
I'm not sure. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Anyways, Hachelek Hasheni. Hachelek Hasheni. The fact that he doesn't explain this too much means that, I'm not sure what it means, but it means that it's maybe self-explanatory. I don't know. He doesn't delve into this here too much. Fine. Okay. All right. The second portion, and here he's going to elaborate in great detail, is what is Nageh ben Adam lechaveira, right? It's between man and man, right? So how are you going to be a chassid between you and your friend? Vinyan, right? What's the general idea? Goydel ha'hatova, an abundance of benevolence, an abundance of benevolence. A person should always be meitiv, should always be good to Librius, to creations, and it should not do anything negative to them. Right? In other words, right, goydel ha'tova, that's really summarized. Goydel ha'tova, an abundance of good. Only good, abundance of good. Only good and abundance of good. A source of goodness and nothing else, right? That's Chasidus. From the word chesed, and it's going to elaborate on that. Goydel ha'tov. Okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Right? Sounds good, right? In other words, elaborate what you want to ask. I mean, where you want to, what's
How do you define good? You got to be very careful. This is good for who? This is good for me, good for you.
Right. Okay, I think we're going into a different direction. But yeah, that's also true.
The whole situation that we discussed last time.
Right, so let's see. Okay, good. And this further subdivides beguf, b'momen, b'nefesh, with body, with money, and with soul. Beguf, b'momen, b'nefesh, with body, with money, and with soul. What does that mean?
Beguf.
Who's guf, and whose money, and whose soul?
Right.
So let's see. So he says, beguf. When we're talking about body, sheyeh mishtadel lazor kol odom b'mashe yuchol, v'yokel maso'o me'alehem. A person should make an effort, a chosid should make an effort as much as possible to help another person and to lighten his burden. As it says, you have to be noise, you have to carry his burden, right? So in other words, this sounds like his guf, right? The guf of the recipient, right? I want to prevent damage to. I didn't say prevent damage. That's the next step. But I want to lighten his physical burden. I want to lighten his physical burden. I want to lighten his physical burden. 1 second. I want to lighten his physical burden, right? Let me just check for a second. Something. Right, so this mission of a noise b'ol chaveroi is located in the 48 ways to be koine Torah. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, here. Noise b'ol im chaveroi. So, what does that mean? Sharing his fellow's yoke. I didn't explain it over here. I didn't explain this portion over here. Hold on.
You want to look at actual mission?
But I'm just saying, I always understood the noise b'ol chaveroi as referring to more figuratively. Meaning, the guy has a burden, so you empathize with him, you sympathize with him. That's what noise b'ol chaveroi meant to me. But what does Rashi say? Rashi doesn't speak about it. Let's see what she's talking about. Rashi doesn't speak about the Meforshim. So okay, I don't know. But anyways, I always in the Noise b'ol chaveroi over there meant less literally, more figuratively. Okay. Right? And he's taking it very literally. I'm sorry. Right? Noise b'ol chaveroi meaning physical prevention. Very strange. Okay, fine. and if any nezek, any damage, right, any physical damage comes to his friend, and he is able to prevent it or to remove it, yitrach kedela asoy. So he has to be tereach, right? He has to put an exertion to take care of that. Okay, so that's beguf. That's beguf. That is beguf. Oh, here they speak better over here. No, they don't. So, okay, so over here in the notes, they're just saying, I don't know. In the notes, they're saying that, I don't know how to explain it, but they're making a valid point, that noisabel chaveiroi, if you take it physical, let's say if you take it literally, what does literally mean? Literally means you see a guy carrying a heavy weight, you go and help him out. Right? You lighten his burden. You actually lighten his burden. Now, on the other hand, right, figuratively speaking, if you understand noisibel chavera means that if I see a guy suffering, I empathize with him. Now, does it help that guy that I'm empathizing with him? Lav davka. I never even shared with him that I empathize with him. The point of noisibel chavera is that I feel his suffering and I take it personally, right? So it's not a question of chesed per se. It's a question of being connected to your fellow friend.
Right. Then we say that you're supposed to do this in all your that was Adam Lamokim.
Right.
In all your possible ways to the best of your
right.
ability.
But again, we're just before Ramchal, just an understanding the words noisei be'ol chaveroi. Right? If before Ramchal, he would have understood noisei be'ol chaveroi is figurative, number one, and number two is not necessarily saying that you got to go do something. It's just saying that you can't be disassociated from your friends. You have to be able to empathize, to feel their suffering and to feel their pain. Right? That shows that's noisei be'ol chaveroi. Now Ramchal makes two switches in a certain sense, not one switch but two switches. One switch is that we're talking about a physical oil, literally, and number two, it doesn't mean that if you see a guy carrying a burden and say, "Wow, that's tough, man." No, that means go run and help him out, right? Right? It's not like thoughts and prayers; it's actual action, right? So, right? So again, it's twofold switch. Now they don't say it's twofold switch. They're just saying that it's one-fold switch, meaning that you actually have to do something about it, right? So they're still kind of taking it figuratively. But then explaining it as in this sense that you have to actually do something to
take it to the next level,
lighten his burden,
feel bad, and then
go help him,
go schlep with him,
go help him, right? I mean, it says yitrach kedela asoy, so you gotta exert your effort to actually do something to help your friend, right? Again, I'm just gonna say this now. Again, this is the question. The question now is like, what makes this Chasidus, right? And even if we can't understand this is Chasidus, so what's wrong with me doing this on my first level of Zahirus? Seems like a good thing. Why can't they be a kind person without being a chassid? I mean, what's wrong with this, right?
Sounds like a very minimal requirement of a good person.
Right, exactly. So why is this here? Why is this in Chasidus? Why isn't this in Nikias somewhere? Right? Again, we have to go. He spoke a lot in Nikias about preventing damage to another person, not stealing from another person, not because remember, Nikias was the idea. Nikias was that we justify ourselves in doing certain things, right? When we sell something to somebody and we oversell it, and as a result overcharge and all these things that we think, okay, it's not a big deal, it's just business. But in reality, it's not. It's not just business, right? So that's all Nikias. But you could also, why can't Nikias be also doing chesed. Chesed seems to be a very core Jewish principle that does not require you to be such a high level person, right? Right. Okay. So that's the question. We're gonna just keep as we go along. Okay. So that's beguf. Again, that's beguf. Beguf is what's beguf? If I ask you, what is the Chasidus of beguf? Means any burden or any nezek. If you could remove it, if you could prevent it, do it. Right? Do it. Okay? And so, assuming okay, yeah, I'm assuming. Let's again, you're walking by a river. You see a guy drowning, right? So you have to ask yourself, am I a chassid before you jump in, or do you just jump in?
Let me meditate and.
Right? I'm assuming that you don't have to be a chassid to do this, right? So what is he saying here? Okay, let's see a little more. Maybe I think it will become clear as we go along. Okay, b'moming, concerning right moming, l'sayeyo ba'asher tasig yodoy, to help him, to assist him in whatever your means allow you to help him, right? Help another person with any means that you possess. Again, to prevent from him damages, right? So not begufa meaning financial losses, right? B'chol ma sheyuchel, again, in every way that he possibly can. Kol shekain, so certainly. Certainly that he has to distance any sort of damages that could come to the person from him.
Again, here it says "B'chol ma sheyuchal." It doesn't say so in the previous example,
right? But so there's two parts to it, right? There's 3 parts to it. There is to help him in whatever means possible, to prevent financial loss in whatever means possible, and certainly to distance any negative financial result that can come from you directly, right? Meaning there is, you go out of your way more to prevent anything negative coming from you than just in general preventing negative damage coming, right? Meaning
that's if you're interested as well, if you are involved somehow, that's your main focus, is to firstly make sure you're not causing damage yourself. Secondly, is that what he's trying to say?
Meaning what? No, meaning let's say I see a guy going into a business deal, right? And I feel that this business deal will be bad news for him. I could say to myself, okay, listen, he's a grown man. He's making a decision. Let him suffer the consequences, right? Or I could go to myself, listen, I don't think this is a good deal for you. I think you should drop it, right? So which one should I do, right? So what he's saying is a chassid is obligated, right? Again, this goes back to one of our questions, right? Is obligated to go and prevent, go out of your way and prevent this deal if you think this deal is going to be negative for somebody. There's the next question, right? I'm making a transaction. I'm involved. I'm in the business deal, right? I'm a chassid and I'm making a transaction. And I'm very careful, again, I'm selling this house, let's say, I'm very careful to tell him all of the pluses and minuses that have to do with this house. And the guy says, okay, I'm glad you've been so honest with me. I'll take it. Right? But then I'm afraid, but what if, because I sold it to him, maybe he's still making a mistake. Let me make sure that, and this is not applicable, and that's not applicable, to make sure that he's not going to have any negative consequences from my transaction. Right? Meaning, it's more than just prevent it. I already took care of all the prevention, but I have to distance any possibility of him losing money because of my transaction.
So you're not just dealing fair. You're like,
right. It's more than just dealing fair. It's me taking care of him. Right? Because the point is, again, going back to that heading, right? Goidel ha'hatova, right? An abundance of good, right? Nothing from me can be a source of negativity.
This is bad news to real estate agents and.
Right, I cannot have any negative coming from me, right? And this goes back to the story, right? For example, that the Gemara had right, the Gemara in Chasidus, I think. Chasidus, where's the Gemara? I forgot already. In the beginning, the Chachamim were afraid of being the cause of somebody else's din, even though that person deserved it, but they didn't want that somebody should be punished for the thing that he deserved as a result of their own, sort of kitruk, right? Because the Gemara says that in my inner circle there cannot be anything negative, right? So meaning a chassid will not be a source of anything negative. Okay, right? So at least over here we understand the Chasidus aspect of it, I think, a little more, right, than in the previous section, in the Guf section, right?
Right, it's a little more tangible.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, the lashon over here in the guf, it's interesting. Very precise. Lashon is again very precise, right? When it came to the guf, he says, "What should you do?" He said, "Yitrach kedei la'asoi." So, exert yourself in order to do something, right? His guf, my Chasidus is to exert, meaning to go out of my way to exert my guf for his guf, so to speak, right? So, let my guf become sort of an extension of his guf, right? If I see him carrying a burden, I go and exert myself, right? If I see some kind of a damage in his physical body, I go and exert myself. So it sounds like Chasidus is this aspect of the guf, right? In other words, I don't necessarily send my servant to go and prevent something. It's my guf and his guf, right? Same by financial loss is he has a financial loss. My finances are going to come and help him, help him in that.
It's the same.
And nizokin also, again, I'm preventing the damage. It doesn't say I yitrach, I have to exert myself to prevent the damage. It's the point is that I'm preventing the damage with my resources, right? I'm using my resources to help his resources. I'm using my guf to help his guf. Okay? Fine, let's keep going. Okay, so kol sheken sheyachin kol mina nizikin sheyochel nevoy machmasoy. Right, so certainly again you cannot have nizikin coming from you. Bein liyachid, bein l'rabim, whether for an individual, whether the rabbim. And here's another aspect which you didn't speak out before. V'afilu she'ata miyad ein hazekin motzei. And even though right now the damage is not likely. Right? Kivan sheyachal levoy l'dei kain, but since it could result in this, yasireim v'yavireim, he has to remove them and eliminate them. Right? So this is part of. I think this is another element of the Chasidus aspect, meaning a tzaddik has to. You see a damage, prevent it. You have a chiyuv to prevent imminent damage. Over here, I don't have an imminent. I took care of the imminent damage. Okay, there was a bore, and the Rishus Harabim. I put up a sign that says,
Careful.
"Don't walk. Watch out. Caution." Okay, but a chassid, will whatever go out of his way to make sure that nobody falls into this pit or nobody's animal falls into this pit, and he'll do whatever he can to prevent it. Right? Fine. Okay, so that's the other aspect. You go out of your way to think a few steps ahead. Right. Not only imminent damage, but even any potential damage.
If you had a horse and this boar was in front of your house, you would make sure that boar is covered up.
Right. So again, snow in front of your
neighbors.
Maybe neighbors, but even not neighbors, but your own. Okay, meaning I would say, perfectly honestly, I don't know exactly how to say it. I had the sidewalk in front of my house. Many people assume that it is mamash my absolute obligation as a good Jew to clear that up. If they see a Jew who does not clear up the house, and people say, "Wow, what a chil Hashem! What an incredible chil Hashem!" To me, that's not exactly right. Well, maybe I'm wrong on this, but could be it's not. The path in front of my house is public property. Happens to be the government made it my responsibility to clear that up. Let's say the government would not have made it my responsibility. Not necessarily I would have to clean it up. You want to walk? Okay, so you figure out how to walk here. This is not my property. I'm not responsible for it. Midas Chasidus would say definitely go out of your way and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly me going out of my way. Again, the question becomes, for me, as a chassid, maybe it's a chiyuv. At that point, it becomes a chassidic chiyuv that I have to go out of my way, right? But it's not a basic chiyuv, right? On the other hand, again, it's different. Once the government places it upon me, then it becomes a basic chiyuv because of dina de melchus dina, and I have to follow that. But it's not because of nezek that I have to clear the public space in front of my house. That's what I think. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not an expert. That's what I think. Okay. Anyways, moving on. And our sages said, the moment of your friend should be beloved to you as your own. Right? So again, this is the key feature here. Right? Beloved as your own. Meaning that instead of you, right? How do I say it? Again, if there's an imminent damage, you say, okay, I took care of the imminent damage. The rest is your responsibility. But had it been your money or your child's money, you would go out of your way to make sure that money is not lost. So that's you have to make sure that the other person's money is protected. So that's the Chasidus aspect of it. So fine. Then finally, banefesh. Now the third element. A person should make an effort to do for his friends any sort of koires ruach. Again, this is like nachas ruach, koires ruach. Nachas ruach, right? Nachas ruach was pleasant. Koires ruach would be more like coolness of spirit. Koires ruach. How do they translate it over here? Koires ruach. They say gratification.
It brings satisfaction.
But then later he uses the word nachas ruach, so I'm not sure. Over here he says koires ruach, but later he says nachas ruach. So let's see a little more then. Benefesh yishal lased lechaver kol koires ruach sheyesh biyodei, bein binyonei hakoved, bein v'chol shar inyonim. Whether it comes to honor or whether it comes to any other reason. Right? So again, go out of your way to make a person feel good. Go out of your way to make a person feel good. Amazing. Right? So kol koires ruach sheyesh biyodei. So Shishtadla says kol koires ruach. Again, Any kind of koros ruach. Any kind of koros ruach. Kol mashu hu yoidea. Anything that you know. Shim yaseu lechaveiroi hu mekabel nachas ruach memenu. Anything that you know that if you do it for your friend, he's going to receive nachas ruach from it. Mitzvahs Chasidus hu la'asoisoi. It's a mitzvah, it's a commandment of Chasidus to do it. Right? So here's that, again, that Lashon. That comes out to be that when for a Chasid, certain things become mitzvahs Chasidus. It becomes the requirement to actually do it. For that person, his avodas Hashem requires him to do this.
What is required? Meaning, it's not like he follows a certain law. It says, I'm a chassid now, therefore I should, as a chassid, I'm supposed to do this. It's in his, maybe I'm wrong, but in his perception of reality, there's no other way of doing this, right? Like, how can I sit idly when my friend's honor is being afflicted, or he might lose money because of some other thing, he's... Again, what's the, maybe it varies by the level of a Chasidus, but what's the intention here, I guess? Not the intention. Is it, let me just follow these rules and I'll be all right? Or is it the minimum requirement?
No, but I'm
to
saying,
get to the level of what this
I'm agreeing with you that
this is just this. This is the word this is how the world works. How can I see the boar in the middle of the road and just do nothing about it? Like it's preposterous.
Right.
Give me a show.
Right. So
that's
right.
What
Meaning, but it becomes like well, you say that. And how can I not do this?
Right.
Right. That's
that becomes a
how
second
can I not
nature.
do this? Right. So in other words, it's something that, right. You don't say to yourself, how can I not keep Shabbos?
Right.
I have to do it. Hashem said I have to do it. I have to do it. So for a chassid, this thing becomes I have to do it.
Okay.
How can I not do this? Right?
Righteous.
Meaning, as opposed to I don't have to do this, but I'll be a nice guy and do it.
Okay.
Right? Right? That's
right. Yeah. Okay.
That's the difference.
Right.
Okay. Kol shekain. So certainly shelo yitzarenu b'shum minei tzar klal, and certainly that any tzar should not come as a result of that person. In whatever manner could be. Right. So again, this is a key point, meaning that obviously insulting another person is awesome. Obviously, the chassid has to figure out that even the unintentional consequences are also problematic, and he has to make sure that nothing unintentional makes another person feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. In my it's often very hard to be, meaning, I don't know how to say this. Sometimes, let's say, I have a teacher in school. Let's say I have a teacher in school.
Mm-hmm.
He has this thing. Every kid, he thinks of a nickname for every kid. Every kid, nickname. Every kid, literally every single kid, nickname. Okay, and he's been in the school I don't know, at least 12 years now. That's, he's seen every student, and every student he has a nickname. Okay, now you could say to yourself, that's not good, right?
Sounds
not good, but the kids love it, right? And it feels like a personal connection with the teacher, and the kid feels, unique. And the kid feels that connection with the teacher and the love. I mean, the teacher is a very positive teacher, right? And the kid loves his nickname, right? So now you could say again. So if it's a chassid, you could say, what if?
right.
if you're gonna what if everything that we do, then every joke
could be,
be, but you're gonna be all serious. But then when you become friendly with all those people who are constantly serious, their whole presence makes you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So how do you actually reconcile this business with being very goydel ha'tova, right?
Mm-hmm.
Full of benevolence, and at the same time complete what's the word, non-negativity.
Right.
It seems like almost an impossible accomplishment. So I don't know. Okay, moving on. Okay, so Uklal calls so the general rule of all of this, hu gemilus chasodim is gemilus chasodim. Asher hifligu chachameinu zichronim levracha b'shivcha u'v'chaviseinu ba. Gemilus chasodim. This is the general heading of gemilus chasodim, which our sages, went out of their way to praise and to highlight our obligation to it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now again, a question arises. What, now you discovered Gemilas Chasodim, it's something that we say every single day, right? You're going to speak out. Ubichlal Zeh, I'm just read them. Ubichlal Zeh, included in this is Redifas Shalom, is pursuit of peace, Shehu HaHatova HaKlolis, which is the most general Hatova, benefit, Ben Kolodim Lechaveru, when it comes to any Kolodim Lechaveru, right? You can always what's the word, make peace. Peace is always good. It's the most general, most positive shalom. Okay, so Gemilus Chasodim, now he discovered in the Chasidus that you got to do Gemilus Chasodim. It's just bizarre. Our sages, went out of the way to praise. Avram Avinu, the first Jew, his whole business was chesed. Yeah, so let's keep going. Ve'ato, and now, ovi lecharayos, I'm going to bring you proof. I'll call advarim ha'ela for all these things. What is going to bring me proof? Again, that you have to be good to people, right? Minach echomim zichronim levracha, from our sages zichronim levracha. Afal pisha advarim pshutim ve'en tzrichim lechizuk ra. Even though the matters are simple, they don't need the strengthening with the proof. Okay, that's true, but
why do you need to mention?
Meaning, what doesn't need the strengthening of a proof? What is he bringing him a proof for? What's he bringing him a proof for? What is he trying to prove? I'm not sure. What is he trying to prove? Right? What did he tell? He told us that there's an idea called chesed.
Right. Everything he described is very logical and I don't say obvious, but it's
right.
Right. These are no news. He's just bringing it to like a level where it's actually applicable. And these are not like ideas that are taught and just general. Just be a nice person. He's making it a little more real, right? And then whenever you read it, yeah, it makes sense. Sure. Right. I'm not sure if I'm up for doing all this, but maybe one day. But do we need proofs? He's going to tell us that again, Avram Avinu and Moshe was an Anav, and
right. So I'm assuming the proof that he needs is for the Chasidus element of it, right? That Chesed in itself, the idea of Chesed, I'm not sure. The whole idea of chesed is not din. Chesed by definition means kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Chesed by definition means kindness. If you have to do it, then it's not chesed. It's a responsibility. Mm-hmm. Right? Chesed by definition, so we're going to have to, now, the Torah makes a certain amount of chesed obligatory for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but up to a point, right? Beyond that point, it's a chesed.
And then we just discussed the situation of a chosed to him. This is very obvious and tangible. How can I not cover the board, right? That guy doesn't need instructions.
Right.
He's giving a set of
No, but we're going to see that, right? That at the end of the day, what the chassid is going to be doing is going to be a chesed, even though for him this chesed has become a sort of responsibility. It's going to be somewhere in this between where it is a requirement, and yet it's still a chesed, right? We're going to somehow dance into Chasidus over here, because at the end of the day, it is going to be Chasidus, but for, I don't know. Again, we'll have to verbalize this, right? Okay. So again, I'm assuming he's going to bring us a raya for the Chasidus part of it, but the whole idea of Chesed is going beyond what's required, and that really, in his worldview, belongs in Chasidus. Meaning, the problem with Nikias was that people don't understand the din. Right? You think the din is over here, but the din is really over here. And before you understand the din, in his world it seems, possibly, and I'm not sure, we'll have to, and I'm just hypothesizing a little bit, but in his world, before you fully understand the din, let your chesed stay home. That's what it feels like to me right now. Let your chesed stay home. First understand the din and function b'din. Because if you're going to bring in chesed too early, what you think is chesed may have been din, or what you think is chesed maybe is really an aveira altogether. Right? There's a guy, by Avos Sabonim, they had this guy a younger guy who wants to be a speaker, so they let him speak. So I remember they were very, very unhappy with him. He's never going to be invited again. And he was saying how there are different perspectives on life, and he was saying like Hasidim, Litvaks, like the whole thing. And he was saying how, a guy borrows his, I don't know, he needs to borrow his, let's say he goes on a date and he borrows his brother-in-law's car, right? And then he sees somebody who wants to ride, and he sees he's wearing, dirty shoes, or it's snowing, it's raining, he's coming in. He says, can I come in with dirt in my shoes? He says, I don't know, it's my brother-in-law's car, I don't know, right? While, it's not my car, I don't know, right? While the chassid, the same story, again, that's what it was saying. His brother-in-law's car, he sees a guy come with dirty shoes, he says, come in, it's not my car anyways, So, right, so he was saying how this is just two perspectives on Yiddishkeit. And of course, in this Litvak's place, they were like, it was like an uproar. What? How can you bring, right? It's not your car. What do you mean? The damage, right? Okay, I mean, it's true. Again, right? You have to know where the din is before you start doing your chesed, right? This is where you're doing a chesed, right?
So
but it's not a chesed.
And started showing him.
Right? Is it a chesed if you're doing it at somebody else's expense? I mean, I think not. I don't think it's a chesed. It's not, right? So, right? So again, that's what he's teaching me of. I don't know. Seems to be. I'm not ready to make a conclusive statement, but it seems to be implying that chesed belongs in Chasidus. Right? In other words, you first have to really know the din really well before you could start knowing where the chesed is. Right? Okay. Anyways, that's what he seems to be implying. Again, I don't know. We'll have to see why, how, fully. Do I fully comprehend it? I'm not sure. There's a part of me that says you could be a total Rasha between Ben Adam L'Malkim and be a total Chassid Ben Adam L'Chaveira, right? That's maybe, right. and maybe,
I mean,
and maybe,
the, the
and maybe that's
who,
another question. Can you be a Chassid in very narrow avenues, or do you have to be a chassid, global chassid? Right? Can I start being, let's say, I like Shabbos. Shabbos is my thing, and I'm going to be a chassid when it comes to Shabbos. What I do on Sunday, don't ask. But on Shabbos, mamash chassid shebechasidim, right?
Yeah,
I don't, can such a thing be? Okay, let's move on. Anyways, so let's see, what are these rayas? Let's see, right? What are these rayas? Bepereg bnei ha'ir. Bepereg bnei ha'ir. Right, so again, just also point out, funny, there's no rayas, benodem lamokum, he didn't bring us rayas. The rayas that he brought us was in benodem lachaver, right? Okay, bepereg bnei ha'ir. Omru, sholu talmidav es Rabbi Zakkai. The talmidim es Rabbi Zakkai, by meha arachta yomim. How did you get such a long life? Omer lahem, miyomai lo hishtanti b'soich arba amay shel tefillah. I'm sorry, I should say that's wrong, by the way. He's going to, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The rayas are going to be for both. Okay, bepereg bnei ha'ir. Omer sholo talmidei es Rabbi Zakkai. The talmidim es Rabbi Zakkai b'meha arachta yomim. How did you get such a long life? Omar lahem yomai lo hishtanti b'soich arba amos shel tefillah. I never urinated within 4 amos of tefillah. V'lo kinisi shem lechaveri, and I did not give a nickname to my friends. V'lo bitalti kiddush hayoim, and I never skipped the kiddush of the day. Right? Ima zkeina hoysoli. My mother was old. One time she sold the veil upon her head, in order to bring me kiddush of the day. Right? So, what do we see here? So you see here, mina Chasidus b'meshna geil dedukei mitzvahs. You see Chasidus that's nageya dikdukei mitzvahs. In other words, the first category. Kikvar potter hoya min adin me'avoyes yan lekiddush. He certainly was potter from mitzad halacha. He was potter to get yain for kiddush. Why? Kivin shloi hoylo. He didn't have, right? At shehoyso tzricha imoy limkar kipo sheberoisha. But until the point that his mother had to sell kippah, the veil of her head, right? Amna midas Chasidus hoya oisa. Okay, but midas Chasidus. No, and it's a funny line. Who was the Chasid in this example? Who was the Chasid in this example? Right.
Yeah.
But he says, but nevertheless, the translation says. I mean, that's what it says. Oiseh. Now it doesn't say oisa, right? He nevertheless did so as an expression of midas Chasidus. Right, so he was the chassid because his mother sold. Right. So again, so they're teaching over here that presumably Rabbi Zakkai's mother would not have sold her veil to procure funds for her son's kiddush wine unless she knew that he was very scrupulous about using wine for this mitzvah and would be deeply pained if he had to recite kiddush over bread in the absence of wine. Right. So in other words, she knew her son, and she knew how serious he was about mitzvahs, and so therefore, in order to please him, she went out of her way to take care of it. So she was doing it, as a good mother for the benefit of her son, because her son was so pious and so righteous, right? So, but it was his Chasidus. He just had nothing to. Presumably he had nothing to sell, so she went ahead and she sold the kippah b'rosh. Right? So again, so this is Chasidus b'dikdukei mitzvahs, right? Even though you're potter, right? You go out of your way to do it anyways, right? So again, so this is what he means b'maisa, meaning this is a maisa that a regular Jew would not do. You actually end up doing it as a chassid, right? Good. Right. All of these categories have to be situation where you don't have to do it, but you as a chassid will do it anyways. Okay, fine. B'menageya lekvoid chaveiroi, and whatever's nageh b'kovod chaveiroi shelo kinohu afilu kinu sheina shel gnai could be shortos shom. And we see also here that he was also makpid on kovod chaveiroi because he did not call any of his friends with nicknames. And he says even when it's not nickname of gnai, not trying to put him down, even if it's a good nickname, still he didn't do it, right? So that's the Chasidus. Meaning, why? Because maybe it's a good nickname, but maybe my friend is not going to appreciate it. So therefore, I still don't do it, even though because maybe my friend will not appreciate it, right? So I'm so careful about my friend's kavod, right? Even though mitzad halacha, I would be allowed to call him this nickname, right? But since maybe he might not, so therefore I prevent it anyways, right? Okay, so that's Rabbi Zakkai. Okay, moving on. Rav Huna, gam kein kosher gomi al levushay, and Rav Huna also he tied a gomi. This is some kind of a it's a grass, some kind of a grass, what's called rope. Al levushay lefi shemocher hem yoinoi liknos yain lekiddush, because he sold his belt to buy wine for kiddush. Right, so here Rav Huna sold something to buy wine for his kiddush. So again, this is a practice of Chasidus. So what is he showing? That you could go out of your way to be machmer. Okay. Oid sham. So what's our time situation, right? Whoa. It's
6 o'clock.
I didn't realize how late it is. Wow, we barely moved anywhere. Okay, so I guess we have to stop here. But we didn't get far. Okay. Fine, so what's our takeaway? So we have a bunch of ongoing questions. That's the big takeaway. The big questions still stand, right? The questions are, why is Chesed and Chasidus? Right? The questions are, to what degree is Chasidus mandatory? The question is, can I be a Chasid before being a Chasid? Right? Can I have Hasidic practices before I get into the level? And also, can I be a Chasid in a narrow field? Right? If I pick a certain mitzvah I'm very good at, can I be very particular, be a Chasid? Or is a Chasid, meaning why not? Why wouldn't I be? Because what would be the counter argument? Why can't I be a Chasid in a particular thing? Because we said that a Chasid is an expression of love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Right, it's a mindset, not a following a rule.
Right. I love my wife dearly on Thursday, but on Friday I beat her up. Something doesn't work with that, right? You're not a Chasid, right? So clearly there's a problem there, right? So if a Chasid is a midah, right, of love and selflessness, then how could you be a Chasid in one area, right? Doesn't seem. Yeah, it doesn't seem to work. But on the other hand, about why not? I'm saying, but I wanna.
Right. You think about a guy who's never, brush all the way, and then they tell him, convert, we're going to kill you. I said, kill me. All of a sudden.
Right. I don't know if that's is that Chasidus or is that something else? That's a good question, right? But or let's say somebody for kashrus, he's so careful he doesn't eat anywhere outside of his house, and he's really machmer on kashrus, right? On other things, not so much. Lashon hara, not so much. But kashrus, it's his thing. Is that Chasidus, or is that is that something else, or is that what is that? Okay, these are the big questions.